Good morning, and if it isn't morning when you're watching this, good afternoon or evening. My name is Nathan Atkins. I'm your colleague today and this entire semester in digital rhetoric. Let's take a look at something real quick. We're going to go to Pandora. Pandora is going to sing us a song by the Civil Wars. The question is, do we think this is spreadable media? Do we think that this is perhaps being freely shared, falling under Creative Commons? Well, it'd be cool if we could continue to listen to that. Oh, you want me to? Oh, okay, sure. Why not? We will just slide our little slider down here and continue on. So, is that necessarily going to be part of Creative Commons or not? Well, that's what we're going to be talking today about. We want to take a look at exactly what is copyright licensing and Creative Commons, which falls underneath that. I'm going to bring in some quotes from the texts and a little bit of how it affects my life. So first off, let's take a look at copyright licensing. And what is copyright licensing? Well, according to DAX, which is a pretty good authority on copyright licensing as they helped people set it up, copyright can be licensed or assigned, and assigning your copyright means selling it. You will no longer have control over the way in which your artwork is used. Licensing your copyright, on the other hand, means you simply grant permission to the licensee to use your artwork in a specific way for a specific purpose, right? It is also possible to license the same artwork for a number of different uses, all right? And basically what we're going to see is that Creative Commons is a way to go about doing copyright licensing. And we've jumped to their page now, and they give a little bit of information about themselves. And I wanted to set this foundational information up for everyone so that we would get a better idea of some of the points that our authors make and some of the examples that I'm going to use later on. So taking a look at Creative Commons, basically they say they're a nonprofit organization that enables the sharing and use of creativity and knowledge through free legal tools. So basically they allow you to make a whole bunch of different types of copyright licenses and symbols that go along with that based on how you want other people to be able to use your work. So for example, if I went over here to licenses, right, and decided to choose a license, right, and let's say I wanted to, allow adaptations of my work to be shared, yes, okay, and I don't want to allow commercial uses of my work, right? These symbols over here, okay, they are the ones that come up, and we can scroll on down here and they give you a little handy icon that you can put together. And if you really want to, you can also make it clickable to where it explains to people using your fabulous site or content what they need to do when they're using it, which is pretty neat. So having all that said, okay, what makes Creative Commons spreadable? Well, if we do a Google search, and we'll just do a Google search for books, right? And we go to the images of the books. All these images may or may not be free to spread, right? We don't know. Also, if you take a look at a lot of these books, they have a pretty English look to them. They have a pretty cultural saying. Here we're spreading love. Here we're spreading metaphysical natures. Here we've got tons of books in Western architecture, so on and so forth. So let's say I am hanging out in Ghana and I have access to the internet through some of the charity works over there, but I want to talk about books and how I'm happy to be able to read them and happy to be able to have them in my life due to the charity work around me. And more importantly, I want to spread literacy to the villages and people around me so that they get the benefits of what I do. But I don't necessarily want Western dominated media and all of that good stuff to hit my message because I know the people around me are going to react badly to that. In short, I don't want the transnational side effects to occur that Jenkins talked about in chapter 7. Well, enter Creative Commons. and enter Google. If I go to search tools, right, more tools, or more importantly, usage rights, I can go down here labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification, and a lot of charities show this. So now I know that every single one of these images is not only allowed for me to use free of charge without any problem, but I can also use Photoshop or anything else to make it look a little bit more like my culture and my intended use. On top of that, I can still change things like size to be able to, take a look at the benefits of having larger size JPEGs and PNGs and whatnot to be able to manipulate. So there's a use for Creative Commons and for copyright licensing for transnational purposes. Creative Commons also allows you to spread media via spreadable business models, which Jenkins talks about in Chapter 6. In short, I would be able to freely give my content in order to spread it through a business model that allows people to reuse it. You see that in a lot of niche markets like web comics. I believe they talked about that as well. Creative Commons also allows you to research via analytics where your content spreads to. So if I make all my content free, okay, then I'm going to be able to use Google Analytics to see who likes my content, where it goes, and maybe prepare for a commercial business in the future. Creative Commons can also help you spread your niche market, as we just talked about. It helps you spread a web comic, for example. And let me give you an example and shameless plug for one of my favorite web comics, which is Sluggy.com. It's a very interesting web comic. It's been going on since 1996, and I advise you read it. Also, he makes a lot of his images free for reuse now that he's made all the money he really wants to make off the project that he has. So, take a look at that anytime you want to. Lastly, Creative Commons helps participatory transnational content, as we just talked about, and it does so specifically by taking away the legal pitfalls that happen when you adapt culture. So I do want to take a look at a pretty interesting quote from Jenkins that talks about the transnational use, and you can find it on page 260. And the author basically says that transnational media content sometimes comes through the front door, distributed by commercial interests seeking to expand markets. Other times it comes through the back door, shaped by the efforts of pirates seeking to profit from media produced by others, by immigrants seeking to maintain contact with cultures they have left behind, or by audiences seeking to expand their access to the world's cultural diversity. In every case, participatory cultural practices are transforming transnational media flows, even if access and participation among those audiences remains uneven. So, for example, that basically underscores the point that I just made about folks in developing countries and whatnot wanting to be able to use free content that was given to them by transnational media pathways and be able to freely use it in a localized manner that makes more sense to their culture and doesn't have the dominance of that first world country making its way into what they want to do. As an example that I'm going to end with here, you can do a lot of interesting things, but you can fall into some pitfalls. And I just want to, show you a really neat checklist that you can use to make sure that you don't get legally snafu'd in your work. And one of those is basically the fair use checklist over here at the USG, and you can get to that by typing fair use checklist USG into a Google search. You can Google that. Basically, the fair use checklist looks like this. It allows you to fill out your information, but most importantly, it allows you to weigh in favor of use or weigh against favor of use. And you basically go through and answer each of these questions, right? If you have more check marks under the weighs in favor of fair use, have at it. However, make sure that you always cite as a student. That is to keep the plagiarism side out of it. But for example, if you wanted to use it in a presentation like I am doing right now, this will help you answer the question of, can I use Pandora in the background? And the answer is undoubtedly yes, even though I'm not going to go through all these favors of fair use. But what I would like to do in the discussion headed out, and I hope that you take part in discussion responses, is leave you with one of my favorite videos that I really like to look at. And I would like you to determine if it is Creative Commons, if it it is thus copyright licensed, or if it's something that we would have to use a fair use checklist to determine. Here it is.
It's the year of the sheep.
So it is the year of the sheep. And with that, I leave you to your discussions. And I hope that you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon.